just like it hit me really hard because it just kind of locked together like what I had felt physically when I read the script. Yeah, so he was just basically performing to the music, yeah. But for me, that's really important and really great, that I can go about and not have to, see everyone I know or like my whole family when I'm walking down one street, like what tends to happen in Iceland, for example. Basically, there's two options in my family. Magical, but also unreal at the same time because I was like, well, did that really happen to me?
Whoa, hey! You just described on the stage very impressively how the script and the music connected at a very early point. How was that? How did it feel, like body-wise also?
Yeah. Well, I was really lucky because I was approached very early on in the process by Todd Phillips, the director of Joker, and he asked if I wanted to read the script, which I did, and I really loved the script, and I loved the story, and I loved the approach that he was taking to it, and I think as anyone who has ever read the book probably knows, how it feels physically to read the book, because you internally make up the whole scenario. You make up the production design and the pacing and the choreography and the movements, and you're all kind of making that up internally as you're reading. And because he asked me to start writing the music based on my feelings of the script, as I started to kind of approach the music and kind of explore different tonalities and ways of going into it. One, I found that his notes and his tones and his tonality, it just it hit me really hard because it just kind of locked together what I had felt physically when I read the script and what I had felt what I was feeling as I was playing the music, and it was a really kind of strong physical reaction.
And normally it's like you get the scene, or like a composer, as far as I know. I have a friend who's a TV composer, and then he creates the score. Mm-hmm. But what happened here?
Yeah, so this was a really unusual process because I was allowed the space to start writing the music before they even started shooting the film. And that is a pretty unusual process nowadays, and it used to be the case before in early filmmaking. And what that meant was that I was allowed to be a much bigger part of the whole filmmaking process. The music was allowed the space to really influence the tonality of the scenes and the movement of the scenes, and so Joaquin was really able to perform to the music and have the music lead the way into his performances, and that's a really magical way of going about it, I think, because the music is a really strong element of always of film and TV, and I think the closer all of those elements can work together in tandem, the stronger the project is as a whole, I think. There's ultimately no reason for it, and that it's great to be able to open that conversation.
Tell me about your grandmother and your passion for crime, or especially also for the topics of the movies are very much related to crime. And your grandmother? Yeah. So my grandmother was a really an amazing, remarkable woman, and she was the first female professor in Iceland, one of the first female doctors, and was a virologist and worked very hard and was completely obsessed with her work, and she would always say to me that the only way to turn off your brain was to read a good crime book and get lost. So that's something that I adopted very early on. So always read a lot of crime books.
And that's why you relate to these stories, or do you choose these kind of topics?
Yeah, so I guess like a lot of my music tends to kind of lean on the darker side of emotions. So it lends itself normally quite well to like the darker side of storytelling. So it's, I guess it's both, both my fascination with dark stories and that my musicality tends to lead more towards the darker side. I've just met so many music supervisors and directors and editors who are all just like, whoa, like what the hell?
I mean, you live in Berlin, and you kind of come back from the Oscars. This is your hometown here. How do you feel looking back to the Oscars?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely surreal actually, because it was such an intense time leading up to it, and so much traveling and so much commotion, and then it happened, and then I basically went back right the morning after, yeah, so I still haven't really kind of taken in the whole experience. It's been incredible to feel the people's response to what I had to say at the Oscars, and it's been like, yeah, unbelievable to feel the energy that it seems to have created for people I mean, I guess especially women in the creative industry. Like, I've just been getting so many emails and phone calls and messages from people that are just so energized, and they were like, yes, I've been showing up like super early at the studio because I can just believe that it's possible, and so it's been, I think that aspect of it feels really, really beautiful and really just kind of magical, but also unreal at the same time, because I was like, whoa, did that really happen to me? There's certain like layers of things that happen with all of this noise that's been happening in the last few months.
The music seems to be very much influenced by at least my cliches from Iceland and the landscapes. You're talking about space, but you also talked about Berlin as a place with space. What is more important, and what do you mean with these two spaces you were talking about?
Yeah, well, I think there's spaces are different. There's the physical space, and then there's also the mental space. And I think Berlin is a great place to have both physical space, because the city is very wide, the streets are wide, it's not super crowded, so you're never kind of cramped in, so you always have a lot of physical space. But at the same time, because there's not really so many people living here compared to how big the city is, you also do have a lot of mental space as a result, and I think that's really, for me, that's really important and really great, that I can go about and not have to, see everyone I know or like my whole family when I'm walking down one street, like what tends to happen in Iceland, for example, because the community is very small, so there's not a lot of there's not as much of mental space for me, at least, when I'm in Iceland.
But nevertheless, your family is very important for your creative process, or the whole work. You just said it's you don't want to go on all the time on a new date, or what did you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I think for me, music is all about communication and communication with people through music, and I think music is a very it's a really wonderful way of communicating, because it kind of, at least for me personally, totally transcends anything that you can say with words, and the better you know the people you're communicating with, the deeper you can go into the communication, so I think that, that's why I tend to work with either people that I know really, really well for decades, or my actual family, because yeah, and you can compare it a little bit like, to dating, because if you're going on first dates all the time. You know, you don't tend to go into very like deep conversations. It tends to be like more like chit chat, like as opposed to when you've been married to someone for years and years. Like you know each other really well, so you can. There's like a dialogue that you can have that's a lot deeper than the surface level chit chat. You know, and that's something that in music I'm also really interested in. Thank you.
How do you pronounce your name correctly?
Hildur Guðnadóttir.
Guðnadóttir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.